Welcome to week 4 of the TAMUC Survival Guide COVID-19 edition, week 5 of our program. My name is David and I will be your moderator for today. And I am joined by my group members, Estrella Cruz Vasquez, Victoria Trevino, Pamela Alonso, Neville Pancho, and Chris Charles, where each week we will facilitate a session focused on COVID-19 topics that are relevant to the campus community. This program is hosted by TAMUC public health students enrolled in program implementation and evaluation class taught in the Health and Human Performance Department. Last week, we talked about how this COVID session has impacted our areas of health, including our physical and mental health. The reality is that staying active and working to cope with all the stressors is difficult, but we can adjust. Another area of stress is keeping up with all the information about COVID and figuring out what is really true. Today, our guest speakers will help us debunk some of the common COVID myths you may have and explain why they are not accurate. This way, as we work to stay COVID-free, we will also use and share accurate information with others. And I will hand it over to Chris to introduce our panelists to you.
Thank you, David. Today, I will be introducing our two guest speakers, Dr. Henry Ross and Willietta Gombe. Dr. Henry Ross is a graduate of Kentucky State University of 1978, Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, 1981, Texas A&M University of Commerce, 2007. He began his college teaching and college football coaching career in 1981 at his alma mater, Kentucky State University. He has worked in higher education since 1985 at Texas A&M University of Commerce, where he has coached football and now focuses on teaching and serving in various leadership positions. He has taught courses in health, physical education, and human performance, noting his course on survey of human diseases that would be beneficial in today's discussion. Dr. Ross continues his position as an instructor in the Department of Health and Human Performance here at Texas A&M University of Commerce. During his 36-year tenure at Commerce, he has served the university, city, and state in numerous capacities. Our other guest speaker, Willietta Gombe, is the Public Health Community Healthcare Coordinator for Healthcare Access Maryland, as well as a nonprofit owner located in West Africa, Sierra Leone. She is passionate about closing disparities and helping her community and becoming a safer, equitable place for all. And now I'll pass it back to David. Hey, David, you're still muted.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry. But to help kick off our COVID-19 myth discussion, Pamela will get the talk started with an icebreaker. Handing over to you, Pamela.
Hello, I'm Pamela Alonso. I will ask the panelists the icebreaker questions. There are 3 statements. I will share my screen with y'all. There are 2 truths and 1 lie. Choose which is a lie. So the first one is A, an individual may experience reinfection to COVID-19 after the first exposure. If you have COVID-19, this doesn't imply a person will have the disease. The elderly population are at increased risk of COVID-19. People of all ages can be infected by the coronavirus. The third one, physicians have found chloroquine cures coronavirus symptoms. So which one is the lie, Willietta? May I have your response?
So Hello everybody. Thank you so much first and foremost for having me here today. It is a privilege to be amongst you and to be in the likes of Dr. Ross. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have three options here. Understanding that COVID-19 is a new disease, we know that definitely that the elderly are at an increased risk for getting infected. So that we know definitely is a truth. And we also know that an individual may experience reinfection because we're still looking at studies to understand how do we get COVID-19. There are different types and different what do you call it? There are different infection rates, and understanding how we get it as people and how this how this I'm sorry, how it continues to evolve in our body and how it affects us. So we know that A and B are true. So I will say C is a lie, because we
Thank
are.
you for your response.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Ross, which one do you think is a lie?
Number C is a lie. I would go with my co-presenter in terms of hydroxychloroquine is the correct term that some are saying is or used to treat. There is no cure
Right.
for the coronavirus at this time, COVID-19. There is no cure for the virus at this time, and we don't have a vaccine produced as well. So C would be the correct response. C would be the lie.
We appreciate our panelists' answers. Now back to you, David.
Thank you so much, Pamela. So I will go ahead and jump right into our discussion, and I'll go ahead and like to start with Willietta. So Willietta, according to the WHO, with every pandemic comes an infodemic, where there is a lot of misinformation on and or offline. So the question I have for you is, have you heard about a COVID-19 myth? And if so, can you share it to us and why it is a myth?
Absolutely, thank you. So one of the myths that we encounter frequently is that COVID-19 only affects specific groups of people. As we clearly see in the icebreaker, COVID-19, anyone and everyone susceptible to it. As long as we're not taking the preventative measures, we're also susceptible to it. And we have to make sure that we understand that there are underlying cause and there are things that will make us higher risk in order to get it. For example, we understand that the elderly are at a higher risk, and those who have high blood pressure, who have hypertension, who have underlying diseases are at higher risk. There's not a singular population that is that will only get it. But unfortunately, because of health disparities, we do see that Black and Brown people die at a higher risk, are hospitalized at a higher risk, and also contact the diseases at a higher risk. And these are things that we have to take into consideration. And knowing that this pandemic has increased the visibility of disparities, we have to, as a community, be our brother's keepers. How do we do that? Wearing our mask, staying 6 feet apart, social distancing. These are things that have proven to flatten the curve and help us in understanding how this affects us and how this disease spreads, or this virus rather.
Wow, thank you so much. That was a great response. Thank you. So I would like to hand it over to Dr. Ross. The CDC reports that the novel COVID-19 is a new disease, and the understanding of its infectiousness and transmission does seem to change. And the goal of this program is to give accurate information. And in week 1 of our program, we discussed what COVID-19 was and where it came from, but there is still uncertainty and myths about its origin. So my question for you, Dr. Ross, is talk briefly about what the coronavirus is and where it originated from.
Okay, great. We'll be happy to do so. On February the 11th in 2020, the World Health Organization announced an official name for the disease that caused COVID-19. Actually, it's called the novel coronavirus outbreak and was first identified in Wuhan, China. Contrary to what some may say, it's not necessarily, it should not be called a China virus. While it was first identified in Wuhan, China, the virus actually originated in bats. Okay, and it's called a novel coronavirus, and it is a new coronavirus that has not been previously identified. Thus, the name COVID-19 for coronavirus disease 19, the year being 2019 that it was founded or identified for the most part. Coronaviruses have been around for a very long time, but this one is considered to be new. Thus, again, the name COVID for coronavirus disease, the year being 2019.
Okay, thank you so much for that response, Dr. Ross. And for our audience, if you have any questions during our discussion, please drop them in the chat box, as we will have a short question and answer session after the discussion panel. And to dive right into this discussion again, Willietta, this is for you. The NIAAA posted an article discussing the difference in alcohol concentration found in one standard alcoholic beverage versus hand sanitizer. Now, there's a common myth that drinking alcohol can protect you from COVID-19. So my question for you, Willietta, can it actually help with COVID-19, and what are the risk factors of binge drinking to prevent or cure COVID?
Thank you, David, for that question. Now, we have to be very careful in an age where information is everywhere, and overly saturated information may be detrimental to the health of the public. One of the things that we've been told is drink bleach. That's not good. And we've also, these are unfounded, unscientific, and things that will lead to the demise of people who do not do their own due diligence as citizens and, do what's right and actually seek medical and scientific advice. So back to your question, drinking alcohol can protect you from COVID-19. Now, we understand as people that too much of anything is not good for anyone. So while hand sanitizer contains 60 to 95% of ethanol alcohol, and it can help destroy the coronavirus on surfaces, drinking alcohol, on the other hand, in order to protect yourself, will leave you drunk, will leave you at increased rates of being actually susceptible to the virus in of itself, because your lung capacity is not operating at its full capacity. Now, what does the coronavirus do? It attacks your lungs. So if we're not protecting our lungs and we're putting ourselves, like smoking and drinking and things of that nature, we're actually inviting the coronavirus if we're not taking the preventative measures. So that can be really harmful. Overuse of alcohol can increase your risk in getting COVID-19. An extensive misuse of alcohol can affect your lung capacity. And like I said, you can be more susceptible to COVID-19. So it is not true. Drinking alcohol excessively, binge drinking, will only leave you in an accident or in a very unconscious state of mind, and we don't want that.
Yes, that's very true, and that's a very great point. That
David, if you don't mind, I'd like to also comment on what the co-presenter said. Ms. Gumbe, is that how you pronounce your last name? How do you pronounce it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Gumbe? Yes. Right, because I want to refer to you as Ms. Ms. Gumbe, what she said is extremely correct. And along with that, when we look into some of our lifestyle behaviors, things like drinking and smoking, it can reduce the body's ability to fight disease.
Absolutely.
So we need to be concerned about staying healthy, getting plenty of rest, exercise, eating a well-balanced diet. This is how we keep our body strong in order to help us fight diseases, i.e. viruses in particular, as well as some of the bacterial and fungal infections as well. So if we smoke, we can affect the lungs. And as Ms. Gumbe said, this virus attacks the lungs, attacks our respiratory system. So by smoking and drinking, we can reduce our ability to fight disease.
Yes, that's very true, and that's a very great point that you made. And for our audience, if you have any questions during our discussion, please drop them in the chat box, as we will have a short question and answer session after the discussion panel. And to dive right into this discussion again, Willietta, this is for you. The NIAAA posted an article discussing the difference in one standard alcoholic beverage versus hand sanitizer. Now, there's a common myth that drinking alcohol Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ross. That was a very good point to add to what Ms. Gambe said. Thank you. And so my next question for you, Dr. Ross, is the WHO reports that taking vitamins and supplements are vital for building a strong, functioning immune system and promoting overall health. Yet there is a myth that home remedies such as garlic and hot peppers cure COVID-19 faster, and they have proven effective in curing COVID. So my question is, do home remedies prevent or cure COVID-19? And if so, well, of course we know they don't, but what are some home remedies that you would suggest we can do to help boost our immune system during this flu and COVID-19 season?
Well, I actually have no home remedies that I could suggest. Again, there is no cure at this time, and if there were home remedies, I think everyone's grandmother and mother would already have them online.
Absolutely.
Would have them online and perhaps making money off of such. Now, the World Health Organization, as you referred to, the World Health Organization has put out that there are some treatments. Again, we do not have a cure.
Sure.
Medical care can be administered to help relieve some of the symptoms that were talked about earlier by Ms. Gumbe. There's no current vaccine that is available, but there are some effective therapeutics that are being administered.
Right.
You may have heard the talk of remdesivir. And then there is antiviral therapy that is being done. You may have heard about systemic corticosteroids. These are steroid injections that are being taken, or oral medication or oral steroids as opposed to intramuscular injection, which is also a systemic corticosteroid that is administered. Anti-inflammatory drugs that individuals are being used to be treated for arthritis. And then there's convalescent plasma, which means that we're using blood from someone who has had the virus and has overcome the virus.
Right.
So no home remedies that I could talk to anyone about, nothing about garlic. I've seen an individual on YouTube who put his head over a boiling pot of water to inhale the steam from that and touted that as being a preventive measure for COVID. I cannot speak to those things. So I would say seek a physician and get a physician's care should one get COVID.
If I may add to what Dr. Ross says, just adding a little humor to it, brilliant answer, but I'm African. So I don't know if everybody here is aware of WhatsApp. Now, WhatsApp is the misinformation center of the world for our parents and grandparents and aunties and uncles. And so I'm Sierra Leonean. So one thing that we are, David can attest to that. We make it's called ginger beer. So it's not alcohol. So I'm not debunking my last statement. It is a ginger flavored drink that we make from raw ginger. And now that is supposed to help you with your, in these natural things that you can find in nature. They do have some healing properties to it. They do have some relieving properties to it. They're not a cure, but they could help you in relieving whatever you can do. But we, in our community, we've been drinking ginger every day, every night. So we need to just prevent getting coronavirus. But obviously, do the social distancing, do the wearing of masks, take your measures very, very seriously, but take your vitamins also, go on walks, sleep 8 hours. I mean, we were in the house for 4 or 5 months, and I hope a lot of us got a rest, and I hope a lot of us were re-energized, and, because we live in a very busy world, and sometimes we don't take breaks. So yeah, that's all I have to add.
Ms. Gumbe, you'll be surprised. I have had the ginger beer. I drank it.
Okay.
I drank it in Suriname in South America. But also in Birmingham, Alabama, we have a drink called Buffalo Rock. And it is a dark ginger ale. And as a kid growing up, I drank a lot of that because that's what mom gave us to cure just about everything, supposedly.
Yes.
And I had this grandmother who believed in castor oil. If you had a headache, she wanted to give you castor oil.
Rub it on, you know?
If you had a backache, baby, when the last time you had a good bowel movement, she'd give you castor oil. And I believe that if she was still here today,
she would have made something.
Trying to treat you for coronavirus with castor oil.
Dr. E, I'm offended. She said she doesn't like ginger beer. Okay.
Oh, I love ginger beer. I love ginger beer.
And hello to my fellow Sierra Leoneans.
Yes. Okay,
Oh my
but
God.
yeah, that was my response to that, Mr. Kesselbay. I be aware of those home remedies. Those home remedies may have you up the creek without a paddle.
Thank y'all so much. Y'all did such a great job. Thank y'all. And I know our audience has some questions they would like to add. So I would like Pamela to kind of briefly present at least 2 questions for roughly about 5 minutes that you guys can have a chance to answer from our audience. Handing it over to you, Pamela.
Thank you, Devin. Our first question for the panelists is from Biana Smith. Is it a myth or fact that spikes COVID-19 cases, or is it because of increased testing?
Ms. Gumpay, you want to go?
Sure.
The video is not working. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay. So when there's increased testing, it's very important. Testing is very, very important. How else do we know which demographic are mostly affected? How else do we know if social distancing is working? So if we test more, we have valuable data that lets us know what is working and what is not working. So if you test more, people are sick. Whether you test or you don't test, people are sick and people are dying. Unfortunately, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, but if we don't take it with honest urgency, it can be. So if we're not testing, we can't say, oh, it's going away, because we don't have the data to prove it. And just because there was another debunk that, oh, just because they're saying that, oh, doctors are just writing that it's COVID-19 that people die from without having actual fact. If you have COVID-19 symptoms, as a doctor, you are mandated to treat people based on their symptoms. And you have to figure out what they have. And if people are dying at a rapid cause, there's a virus, they have things that are affecting their lungs and all that, you have to treat it as a COVID-19 case. So it's very important to test, very important to understand how this thing spreads. So if we see a spike because we're increasing our testing, that means we're doing something right and not that we're doing something wrong.
And I could not say anything more than what Ms. Gumbay said, especially to the fact that testing identifies the cases. Whether you test or not, you're going to have the cases that are out there. Absolutely. Testing helps us to identify those individuals that have the disease so that treatment can be done and we can reduce susceptibility to others. So it is important that individuals be tested, that individuals be treated, that we identify the individuals that have the virus so that we can sort of minimize its spread. So it's important to test. Testing does not cause coronavirus. Testing does not increase the number of people that have the virus. Again, it simply identifies those individuals that have the virus so that we can minimize its spread.
Absolutely. And if I can just add one more point to that, to that point that Dr. Ross just made, it's very important that we understand that what we do as citizens affects the larger community. And we are looking at a very big toll that we're taking on the healthcare community, people whose job is to protect and to serve, and their families at a higher risk because we as citizens are not doing our part. If you know that you're having coughing symptoms, if you know that you're not breathing correctly, if you know you're having headaches, if you know that you're losing your sense of smell, do not go out in public. Go to your local Walgreens, your local CVS, get an appointment, get a COVID test, ask your doctor, call your primary physicians, because once the COVID gets to you and you're spreading it to others, we're all in danger. We don't have herd immunity. We do not have herd immunity. And as long as we continue in this reverse psychology, it's not going to work for the betterment of us as individuals and us as a community and us as a people. So especially with our healthcare, because my whole family, my husband's a healthcare provider, my mother, my father, and I've watched how COVID-19 has had a huge effect on them on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank y'all for the intuitive responses. The next question is from Isabella Ward. Do y'all think politics will tie in with our advancement and research into finding a cure and distributing it to all?
Politics has entered in these last 4 years about any and everything that we have done. But politics,
hold on, my door is still open.
Politics has been around has been involved with most of everything that we do in a society. In some instances, how individuals get funding to be treated, our insurance, how individuals are able to receive funding or monies to get proper care. It is unfortunate to me that politics plays into the fact that we're wanting to rush vaccines that have not been properly tested, which can have an adverse effect on this very people whose lives we're trying to save. By rushing vaccines, there's a proper protocol that these tests need to go through before we administer them to the public or to the population. By doing so without proper testing could be detrimental to the society and to the people of that society. And unfortunately, politics is playing into how a vaccine may be distributed or even how quickly a vaccine may be available. Will I take the vaccine once it comes out? Only after that vaccine has made it through its rounds of appropriate testing and deemed to be safe. Although it may not necessarily be all that effective at the time, they're talking about the fact that we may have to undergo 2 inoculations or maybe even 3 before the vaccine may be effective against COVID-19. So testing is going to be important along with developing an appropriate vaccine.
Okay. Great point, Dr. Ross. Now, understanding a little bit of our historical background. So our constitutional right says the government is for the people, by the people. And we as citizens, we have the power and, to appoint and remove people who are not serving us. And I make this point because it's really, really, really important as our demographic, the young people, the millennials, we have a front row seat in what happens and how we shape. And I'm really proud of how we've stepped up in this era that we are in to social justice issues, where are the front lines of it? Healthcare issues, where are the front lines of it? And it's important that we push issues that push equity and push us together and not apart. And right now our country literally is divided by blue and red. And that's not what we stand for as Americans. Now, I come from a country that was devastated by a civil war, and I've seen what greed, and I've seen, okay, I don't know if you guys can still see me.
You see your beautiful smile. You went dark on us.
Oh, we have an electrician coming to do some fixing. And
I understand.
but as I was saying, I'll use my flashlight because I'm innovative. But as I was saying, we have an incredible opportunity right now when it comes to our healthcare, because what my job is working at Healthcare in Maryland is to provide resources for healthcare for people. And I understand how these things, yes, we stay ready, but I understand how these things affect us politically wise. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. What matters is, do we have health care? Do we have things that other people can live their lives on and not worry about, okay, if I get sick tomorrow, I can't be able to go to the hospital or I can't stop working? Because that's why COVID-19 is spreading, because most people don't have, fees or have things that they can ensure that we can, stay at home for 14 days and be able to make sure that our needs are met. So wherever you are on the political spectrum, you have to, as young people, as people who understand the values of what we want to see in our nation, we have to make sure we're putting the right people in our places of decision making. Because whether we like it or not, who we appoint appoints for us.
I'm so very glad that Ms. Gumby made that particular point, because I was born in 1956, long before any of you were thought about, perhaps except for Neville Funcha. But I was born a very long time ago, and we went through these type of situations as a young man growing up in Birmingham, Alabama. And I am so proud that many of the young Americans, as Ms. Gumby said, has stepped up to the plate during this election and have made their voices known. And that's how change is made, by you guys getting out, becoming active, taking part in the political process.
Right.
That is going to ensure change. That is going to encourage change. People are going to have to listen to you. And in listening to you, they're going to have to act. Act is an action word. So by your actions, you can cause some action to take place in the political process. So by all means, do it in an appropriate manner. Don't go out looting, tearing up stuff, but you can make your voices be heard in a proactive manner by getting involved.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all for the in-depth answering. Now back to you, David.
Yes, thank y'all so much. That was very well said. You guys made some very valid points, and this has been a great session. And I believe that in this session, we learned the importance of what misinformation can do to people. Also, we learned the importance of how home remedies actually won't work, and how that vital testing and consistent testing will also help decrease more cases of COVID. And the goal of this session and the entire program is to facilitate COVID conversations that answer questions you may have and help us keep our campus COVID-free. So we want to thank our guest speakers for taking the time to talk and share with us, our viewers to let us know what you thought and help us spread the word, and also to my week 4 group. I want to say thank you to you guys as well. We hope you have enjoyed and learned something from this session. I invite you to help us keep this conversation going and our campus informed. Be sure to connect with us on social media, where we will continue to post tips, information, and takeaways from each week. Lastly, be sure to tune in into next week for our program finale, where we discuss the future, specifically vaccinations during and for COVID, as well as we show how the future looks post-COVID. So before I wrap this up, I would like to have our guest speakers in about 30 seconds. What is something that you guys would hope our audience and our campus get away from this session? I would like to start with you, Willietta.
Oh, okay. First and foremost, thank you to everyone for this amazing opportunity. Dr. Ross, thank you for your expertise. I really enjoyed our conversation and I was informed as well just by listening to you. For our larger community and larger audience, thank you also. But know that social distancing works. Wearing your mask works. Taking time to, rest and do the things that we need to do works. Now, we don't know what COVID-19 has for us. This is unprecedented times that we're living in all ramification of that. When it comes to social, when it comes to political, when it comes to economics, all of that. We can be bombarded and stressed out and anxiety. Make sure that you have outlets, positive outlets, that you're dealing with these things because this is a lot. And we're living, as I said, in unprecedented time. But COVID-19 is real, but the human spirit is more real. And I believe that we are able to get through it. We've got through, wars. We've gone through diseases. We've gone through many things. This is just another chapter that we get to write together. So take it with all seriousness and be your brother's keeper because we're all in this together at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Willietta. And you, Dr. Ross?
Yes, let me also thank the committee for allowing me the opportunity to present. And I also like to thank my esteemed panelist member, Ms. Gumbe, for her expertise and for her insight and for the information that she shared with us as well. Some of the same things that Ms. Gumbe mentioned, I would also like to encourage our listeners to pay attention to. That is to know that the virus is transmitted through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or even talk. You've heard about individuals singing and perhaps spreading the virus even more or over a longer distance, perhaps even further than 6 feet. You may also be able to get the virus by touching a surface that has the virus on it, and then by touching your mouth, your nose, or even your eyes. Many people would be surprised that the number of cold viruses that individuals get can also be transmitted through the eyes. So it's important to understand how the virus is transmitted. And as was said by Ms. Gumbe, stay at home if you're sick, except to get medical care, avoid public transportation if at all possible, separate yourself from other people and pets in your home, practice social distancing, stay at least 6 feet apart, wear your mask, use soap and water. The hand sanitizers are good. We say they need to have at least 60% of alcohol, but nothing perhaps beat using soap and water. Some of the hand sanitizers that we use can destroy the helpful bacteria that we have on our hands. So we like to use those in a pinch, but it's probably more effective to use soap and water and if you have access to gloves, wear those. I know many of us may look as though we're pretty antiseptic or very sterile, walking around with masks on and gloves on, but that is a way to help reduce one's susceptibility of contracting the virus.
Wow, thank you so much. That was very well said. I'd like to again say thank you so much to our guest speakers for today. And I also like to say thank you to my group 4 members. If you guys are here, if you guys would like to turn on your cameras, as well as anybody else in the class want to turn on your cameras and say hello. Thank y'all so much for attending our week 4 program. Thank y'all. And this is our class.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe.
Russ. Hello, Dr.